They have billy clubs, they have Sam Brown belts, they have the kind of stupid pointy hats. And their job is to basically catch and sometimes interrogate people in heaven who have slipped out of line a little bit or broken the rules. So the scene that was required was these two translators had caught someone in heaven slipping up, and they're basically catching them and reprimanding them. So here was an early idea for that song.
This was our bumbling version. And please excuse the lack of a pedal, which is kind of like for a piano player, it's like not having a left hand on the guitar. Good little pets tend to know their place, but she's not a good little pet.
This one she bounces and trounces and flounces, and that one she's worse than that yet.
I guess it's a good time for flogging, or else we got paperwork logging.
Good little pets tend to know their place, and these are a terrible set.
That was one of our earlier ideas, which we quickly dismissed.
We said, okay, way too chipper. But there's an idea there, and the idea was, I love it, there's a baby crying. And it inspires a lullaby. Hush, little story, don't you worry. You're gonna be a great big story one day soon. So we were like, okay, it's way too chipper. But the idea to keep from that we thought was cool and progressive, was that heaven is referring to its inhabitants as animals, as pets, that basically need to be broken, that need to be domesticated. And so we're like, okay, so what we need to do basically is keep that idea of, let's refer to them as domesticates, and add a little bit of the children of the Third Reich to make it a little bit darker. And from that came this. Clear and cut,
Open and shut,
cases
close
and
ashes,
dust voila,
red hands,
red face,
red hair.
I'm survived,
Stepping in time,
no
such
thing
as
victimless,
voila,
voila,
black sheep,
black eyes,
red eyes.
feeding with a spoon, promise of the moon, that's how you make a domesticate. Grab 'em by the nape, ride 'em through the chafe, that's how you make a domesticate. Voila! We threw that one away too. We said there's not enough babies crying. So, and the Lord said, yeah. So, in researching the era, I mentioned 1930s coppers. Heaven is basically modeled, our heaven is modeled after 1930s Golden Age Hollywood. So in researching the era, I came upon these devices, which at the time, yeah. Wait your turn. These devices, which at the time, in the 1930s, were considered the zenith of technological innovation. And they were called dictaphones. Not dick, you sick fuckers. They basically were dictation machines. They were these giant contraptions.
Did you hear like disappointment?
I know.
That was really like.
I know. We'll save that for another song. So there are these gigantic contraptions with big gramophone-type horns and these long vacuum tubes that basically allowed bosses to record their dictations into these things and then play them back for their employees to type. And the recordings were etched into these wax cylinders, kind of like a record player that created a groove. And the idea was, at the time, prior to that, to have dictations done, you needed to hire very expensive stenographers. They were in the room with you. They could type like 1 million words a minute as you spoke. Now you don't need that. Now you can hire cheap fucking labor. Because you've recorded your message. So they can take it back, put on these gigantic metal headphones, listen to the recording, type. If they miss a word, they can rewind it. They can slow it down till they get it right. And then when they're done, the wax cylinder that the recording was etched into can be scraped off with a device called a shaving machine. So you record something new. So when I heard this, or when I read about this, I was like, okay, there's something to this idea, because heaven is all about, look how innovative we are, even though we're 1930s. But more importantly, these two characters, the translators, are interrogating people. So they're trying to force you to talk, to confess, to whatever. And we're like, okay, what if this song is not about forcing you to talk, but the idea that we're innovative, and we have these new and amazing devices that always create new and exciting ways of making you talk.
This is our heaven infomercial.
Good little dictation machines.
Once there was a time you needed transcripts and triplicates and duplicates to log.
By letter, bone, tar, and as the time slipped, stenographers and abstractors and slugs. Yes, it was a sorry time for talking. Every foot and header to be drawn.
But now we have machines to write the talking.
The days of breaking hands with words are gone. See how we dictate of you, translate for you, cutting conversation, every tongue in harmonation, and transmit to you, make writ of you, spinning mandrels, innovating ways to make you talk. Lift the two-way mouthpiece from the gird, aim the dictator against your pout,
Depress the metal treadle
with your derbies.
How the waxy barrel spins about.
Use your jaws to start the duplication. Little traces every errant tone. And listen back to your domestication.
Hearing
And the sentence through the phones. See how we dictate of you, translate for you, cutting conversation, every tongue in harmonation, and transmit to you, make writ of you, spinning mandrels, innovating ways to make you talk. Dictate of you, translate for you, cutting conversation, every tongue in harmonation, and transmit to you, make writ of you, spinning mandrels, innovating ways to make you
finally a shaking mental cycle.
whittling the wax down to the skin, so the cylinder can be recycled.
To try your testimony once again.
Poach your words and measure your intentions. Rid yourself of every hiss and horse. Fidelity's the bristle of invention, capturing our voices for the chorus. See how we dictate of you, translate for you, cutting conversation, every tongue in harmonation, and transmit to you, make wit of you, spinning, 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 mandrels, spinning, mandrels, innovating ways to make you talk.
I think what's awesome about that is you guys are hearing Terrance and Sarr do this